going on?
What's goody? What's goody? Hey, listen, I'm in a different spot today, man. I'm in a different
Yeah,
spot today, but nevertheless, we gonna get this show done.
yeah, you on the move. The mogul is on the move, making moves.
Yeah, man. Hey, so listen, I'm in Detroit. I'm at United Wholesale Mortgage because I do have a mortgage loan origination license in the state of Florida. But just viewing their facility, getting educated. So for our real estate clients, I like to stay armed and ready with that arsenal to educate and help the clients out the best way I can.
I see. Hey, it's nothing like sharpening your toolbox, adding tools to the toolbox. That's what it's about to make you better. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you guys already know I'm to Carl Williams, and you know I'm with the goat of a coach.
Carla Harris here to bring y'all what's happening. What's happening?
Yep. Hey, we gonna pay a bill real quick. That bill is notes from a coach. You know I'm
Oh,
with the goat, so I gotta pay the bill of notes from a coach. I don't know if you guys have caught this yet, but please do. Notesfromacoach.org. She got the hard book for you. She got the ebook for you. She got the workbook so you can journal and do your thing and get your life on track.
yeah, man. I appreciate that love. Hey, y'all check it out. Go to notesfromacoach.org. You can see the products there. You can also check it out on Amazon. Wherever you check it out, just check it out. Get out there and support the cause. Notes from a Coach, Brandon, trying to be edifying and being a servant to the people. That's what it's really about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of which, man, right, let's just jump right into it. The hot topic, the most talked about thing right now is Brittany Griner being sentenced to 9 years.
Take my breath away.
9 years is the sentencing that the judge put down on her. She did say she didn't know, and her actions were inadvertent. They didn't go for that. Sentence her to 9 years. How does the U.S. and I mean President Biden and the powers that be? How do they respond to this? What happens now? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a difficult situation. I mean, my heart goes out to her, her family, her wife, her teammates. I've watched several videos of them, Skylar Diggin, and a couple other teammates. I think the Shields is over there. So just being, it's just heart wrenching to hear and to see that for something so what we consider minimal, but I'm not discrediting any country's laws or any laws. Once a law is set, it's just heart wrenching to see her be sentenced to 9 years of her life. A lot happens in 9 years. That's a lot of change. A lot of things can develop and change in your life in 9 years. I mean, someone asked me like, well, can she come back and play for the WNBA? I'm like, in 9 years, without proper training, does she have the body, the fatigue, the stamina, the will to play basketball anymore? So it's really life altering, to get that type of sentence. And then I don't know. I don't like the standards in the U.S. jail system. I cannot imagine the standards in a foreign country. Uh, I mean that right there alone, is unbelievable and just uneasy to think about. It's tough, man. It's really tough.
Yeah, nah, no doubt. Like you said, prayers out to her family, teammates, just everybody that knows and love her, even the fans, because fans grow a relationship with you, even if you
Yeah.
don't know them personally. They feel like they're a part of you. She went to Baylor University, so that alumni base that's there. People feel for that because at the end of the day, she's a human being. She's one of us. Now, I've seen different ends of that spectrum where you got people discrediting, well, she broke the law. Okay, we understand that. We get that. But what we're saying is when one of our own, regardless of who it is in the jailing system in another country, we want those people back. Um,
Right.
we want those people back. And there's other people that's jailed as well. I get it. I'm not discounting that, discrediting that at all. But we have to do better as a country of actually maintaining our people. And you know what? Our country has to do a better job of number one, treating us right from the start, so we don't have to go to other countries to make additional monies
Yeah.
or do additional things to increase our value in our lives here in our home country. So if there's something that we could do to keep ourselves home, that would be something different. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Decisions, decisions from the country, decisions from individuals going to other countries. I just hope everyone makes good decisions. Make good decisions when you go out to these other countries. Know the laws, and do everything you can to adhere to the laws of those countries, because we
yeah.
can't control, the consequences for that. That's all I can say.
Hey Sonia, my twin of a last name, how you doing? Thank
Hey, what's up,
you.
sis? Happy to see you tonight. So what else we
Yes.
got, T? What we got going on?
Let's stay with the WNBA, man. Did you know that the LA Sparks were on their way to a road game and flights got canceled? So some of their players had to stay in a hotel for like 12 hours. Why? Because the hotel that they were staying in said they didn't have any rooms available.
You mean stay in the airport?
Yes, stay in the airport
You
because the
said
hotel
hotel,
because
but
the hotel they were staying in. I'm sorry,
right. So you telling me these professional athletes had to spend the night in the airport
in the
because
airport.
there was no vacancy in the hotel for them?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
When you go to, let's talk travel, because some of the flights got canceled. So some of the players were able to get rebooked on an earlier flight and head out, but others weren't. And being that those others weren't, the hotel then couldn't accommodate. So when let's just talk travel for a minute.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to travel private jet um, in the WNBA, or you will get fined. To my
What?
understanding, to my understanding, to my understanding. Um, in college, I'm just saying we kind of flew on a private jet.
Yeah, right.
We
So
had
wait, you mean like when you say can't fly, just for clarity, you mean like an individual can't fly, or do you mean like the entire team cannot fly?
well, for instance, remember a couple years ago, playoff game. There was a team that had to fly commercial, and that means by the airport,
Right.
one of the airlines, to go from one game to the next. By the time they would have got on that plane and got to the next city that they needed to play in, they would have had to been literally walking onto the court ready to go.
Yeah.
Um, the team could have opted to hop on the owner's jet to get them
Right.
there, safety for the players, but they would have been fined if they were to do so.
You mean that there's actually a rule stating that you cannot fly? That's absurd.
I, I
That's
will I will
crazy.
look deeper into that. I will
I
definitely look
would
deeper
really
into
want to do some research on that one, because if like the Miami Heat, and we had the Miami Soul, and the Miami Heat had a jet available to fly the team to their next game, you're gonna find them for using that instead of using commercial? I mean, that's crazy, man. Like, I don't know. I really, it's such a touchy subject, right?
yeah.
I really try to support, right? So I try to find games when I can find games, whether I find them streaming or find them on my television. Like, it's difficult. They don't make it easy to find a game. So I know a lot of struggle we have is supporting, watching, viewing, buying tickets. I'm not able to buy tickets because I'm not in the city that has a team. I haven't traveled during this summer to a city that had a team. So my issue is just trying to support. And I know everybody say support, support, support.
Yep.
Help it to be better. It's not as easy as it seems. I wish somehow it could be easier to support them by watching, even if I had to pay to watch them on TV, so we
Well,
can get some more funds.
yeah. Well, they do, and a lot of people don't notice they do live stream some of the games, Twitter, or Facebook. They'll have a Facebook watch or a Twitter or a YouTube watch. But again, you have to know that this is going on. So we have to, and I say we because I played in that league, so you kind of feel the responsibility to kind of put it out there. But if I don't know, I can't tell you either. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it definitely has to be something that's in the know. But we'll stick with the WNBA, and I'm gonna tell you this: we are about to bring on one of our special guests tonight. Shereka Wright. She is the head coach of UTA. Bring her on. Shereka, how you doing?
Hello, ladies. How y'all doing?
Uh,
Good. Welcome, coach. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now we're excited.
absolutely. So listen, talk to our fans. Tell them who you are, what you're about. Who is Shereka Wright?
Well, absolutely. Well, crossover family, thank you for having me on tonight. Well, a couple of things about Shereka Wright. Military brat, grew up in the Army. My father was in the Army for 25 years. And so I had a chance to be able to travel the world and see a lot of different things. And with that, growing up and being a part of that piece, my mother was involved in working with youth services. And so, it was a big part of her mentoring young people and seeing her, the impact that she made on young people. And so that was one of the reasons of why, I got into coaching. It was a big part because I got to see it, obviously on a day in, day out basis. That's how my mom and my brother, obviously, she watched us after we got out of class. We was going right there to her. That's where you was headed to. They was watching. That's how daycare was going for us and stuff. And so I grew up in a great family, and also being around sports. Both my parents played basketball, high school, and my dad had a chance to play some at the collegiate level. And then it just kind of took off for me from there. It was something that I enjoyed doing. It actually made me who I am today, gave me a lot of confidence in who I was, and it blessed me to be able to get this position that I am right now.
I mean, coach, that's amazing. I was gonna ask you the impact that basketball had on your life, right? But you
Yeah.
just told us, it's been amazing. It has brought you to where you are today. Well, let me go to this question and say, your crossover from Purdue to being drafted into the WNBA, how impactful or what did that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a big piece. Growing up, I remember when it first started, right, the WNBA, and I went to the very, very first championship game when Houston, played New York, and I had a chance to get, tickets to that game. My dad took me to it, and I remember sitting there watching and was saying, "Hey, one day I'm going to be playing in that league." And then to have the opportunity to get drafted and playing with the likes of Elisa Leslie and a Cheryl Swoops, and that was something that was different for me, because those are those models, role models that I've seen watching, and that's you want to be a part of that. Dawn Staley, who obviously is setting the trend and blazing the trail for us right now, as far as being in that seat as a woman of color and doing well as she is, and so it was big time for me hearing my name called, and saying that you're finally drafted and you're part of an organization, the first of something that everybody doesn't get a chance to get to do, right? Everybody dreams of playing in the league, but everybody doesn't get that opportunity. So I was blessed to have that opportunity to be able to put on a jersey, and it just kind of took off for me from there.
Yep.
Awesome.
You know what? That 2004 draft class, we were something special. I'm gonna brag on our class because we came out
Mhm.
together, people. We came
Mhm.
out
Yeah,
together.
absolutely. People don't know that, so they actually kind of go back and look at the names that came out. Even my players to this day was like, "Oh, you played with her and you did this." I'm like, "Yeah, listen, like, no, don't sleep on your coach now a little bit. Like, don't do that." I had something back in the day. I just stepped away from it because it's a time. When it's time for yourself, and my calling was obviously to be able to be in this seat and be able to mentor young women.
Now, let me ask you this, because you said you were a military brat.
Mhm.
How often did you have to move, and how did that affect you or impact you growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. I didn't move as a lot of people who are in the military who grow up in that situation have to move like every other year. I was fortunate enough to where I didn't remember a lot of it. I moved when I was, younger. So I was born in Fort Riley, Kansas, and we lived there for a couple of years before my dad was stationed overseas in Germany, and lived in Germany for 7 years, and then we came back. So we were there for a good amount of time. Lived in Fort Sill, Oklahoma for about 7 years. And then my dad finished his last duty in Fort Hood, Texas. And that's where it kind of all got started for me. So I was from junior high to high school. And so in my junior year, my dad retired. So luckily we did not have to move again. And so I was fortunate enough to where we didn't have to say I met friends for a year and then I had to move somewhere else. My dad was able to stay in a duty for one position for couple of years before we moved. And so luckily I was from junior high to high school where I didn't have to meet new friends and meet new people. I was able to kind of stay put.
Nice.
Sweet, sweet. So who would you say has been most influential in your life?
Oh, absolutely, my parents. I will never, take anything away from them, and they're still a big part of that. I have a 2-year-old, and she's been with them, ever since this whole recruiting trail is blazing of everything, and I got a COVID baby, and so that was always the thing. You're worried about, her going different places. I was fortunate enough, my mom, was able to move here with me and stay here, and so I can keep my child here, and I had to take her to daycare and all over the place and stuff. And then my dad just retired as well too, so they're my inspiration. I talk to them every day. We have long conversations, and they have put me in a position how I approach things every day, how I view people, and how I have a confidence about myself is obviously for my mom and dad, for sure.
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
Man, I gotta ask one question. What made you select Purdue to go to college? Because I heard all the different places that you lived, and I'm like, all right, okay. So what made you say, you know what, Purdue, this is it?
Funny story. So, and you know how the recruiting process goes. I was definitely new to it. I didn't have anybody that I could say, hey, can I get some advice from? So I was really that first one in my family that kind of went through this process. It was all new. And Christy Curry, who obviously I went to play for at Purdue, she, her husband's cousin was the head coach at Temple High School. Temple High School was like big time at that time. They had a lot of big time players come out of there. And he called and said, hey, listen, we have a kid. I don't know if you've seen her before. You need to start recruiting her. At the time, she was at Louisiana Tech. And started recruiting me, loved La Tech. I was just always concerned about the shirts. Like, I didn't really want to play in the T-shirts. Now, I love La Tech. Coach Barmer obviously was a legend. I didn't want to play in the shirt. So I get a phone call, get some mail, and it's from Purdue. Now, obviously, we watched them win a national championship with Stephanie White and Yukari Figs. And my dad was like, hey, you need to take a look at them. At this time, my dad's retiring. And they were going to move, my mom and him were going to move closer to my grandmother at the time, to St. Louis. And he was like, I don't care what you do. We're moving. If you're going to go to school in the state of Texas, you're going to stay here by yourself. And so it was important for me to have family watch. I have a lot of family that lives in Indianapolis. And it worked out perfect for me just to have family be able to come and watch. And I knew academically what I was going to get from them, but more so than anything, I really wanted to go into an established program. And so that's how I ended up at Purdue.
Nice.
How does it feel, Coach? That's a beautiful, but how does it feel going from player to coach? Like,
it's hard.
Crossover from player to coach.
It's really, really hard because you have to walk a fine line of not coaching your players the way that you played, right? Always not bringing that up. Like, when I played, I did this, this, and this. My players will tell you I don't talk about that a lot. My staff does, right? Because they want to use that as an example. I really, really try to every single day let our kids live within their own path.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I wanted so much for them. And then, what I've learned being in the seat for 3 years, and then obviously I've been coaching longer than that piece as an assistant, you can't save every kid. And it's hard. That is something that I really, really struggle with every single day, because I want this kid to get, hey, listen, your life is going to be so much better, right? That getting your education or having the opportunity to go play at the next level, which everybody doesn't get. But I want them to be able to walk away from here prepared for life. And the life lessons that they learn, they always feel like I'm giving them a hard time. No, I'm just trying to tell you, I'm still learning at 40. I don't know everything. Yeah. But you're trying to teach them. And so it's really, really hard, Carla. Like, I swear, as every day, and my staff will tell you, I struggle with it, because I do try to meet our kids, halfway. And I'm very transparent, and I allow them to be transparent with me. And I think that's why we've had success thus far here at UTA, because it's a different type of relationship that, I do have with my kids. And you have to think outside the box when you're in recruiting. And it doesn't work for everybody. I've taken different things from different coaches I've worked under, and I just kind of made it into mine to make it fit for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let me ask Coach this right quick.
You dropped a lot of gems.
To piggyback off that. So I'm a young athlete, right?
Mhm.
Why should I come play for Coach Wright?
You know, I think for me, I always tell you what you're looking for. What are you looking for? Because
Mhm.
that is always the one thing is that when I sit in recruiting visits, I feel like I was always talking to recruits. I always say, what do you want? Because then what I tell them is that, so Carl, if you're saying I'm looking for a location, I'm looking for a relationship piece, you know, I want a relationship with the coach. You know, I want to come in. Nursing is something important to me. Basketball is part of it, but I know I'm not going to play at the next level. Then I'm sitting and telling you this is what we're going to do. Then the
Okay.
relationship piece is built on this. When you walk in my office, I stop what I'm doing. I stop what I'm doing. I'm going to hold you accountable. You want to play the next level? Then I'm going to treat you like a pro. I'm going to coach you like a pro.
Yeah.
And so it's worked for me, and I think it's been great because I don't talk about everything about the universe because that kid may not be interested in all that. And what I sell to them is that this is what we can offer you. This is what I can offer you and my staff offer you. And this is what you're going to get every day. And it seemed to work. Now we get, and I tell them it's pros and cons. We don't have football. But like I told you before, it's like, are you coming to play football or are you trying to come play somewhere where we're focusing solely on women's basketball? You have men's and women's basketball. Those are the highlight of your sports. On top of it, we have a professional WNBA team that's in our building.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that piece of it, we're a tier 1 school academically that we're on the same levels of Texas A&M and the University of Texas and Texas Tech, right? So that's kind of the conversation that I'm having. I do my research, I do my homework early, and that's kind of what we sell. And that first time, I've always said this: I don't let them leave without them feeling some type of way. Like I good pressure, right? Like, dang, man, that was a great visit.
That was a great spiel.
Yes, like so you got to put pressure to that good pressure.
Right.
And they're second guessing that this can really, really work. But it also helps when you're winning, right? It absolutely helps.
Definitely does. Definitely.
I can hear the passion, you know what I'm saying? The passion that you have in your voice. And I can hear, the servant leadership that you have. You're coming from a servant's place of love. So I can imagine like these kids are literally going to run through the wall for you because number one, you're asking them what they want. It's not about what you want, but you're asking what they want. And I think by asking that, you kind of set the tone to see if they're a good fit for you.
Right. Absolutely. Especially if they can't tell me that, right? They can't articulate that piece of it. Then, how can you come play for me? Because it's going to be days where I'm asking you a question and I want you to be able to tell me. You may just say, Coach, I just didn't feel like doing that today. And I tell our kids this all the time. There are going to be days you don't go to class, but
100.
tell me, right? But we're not going to keep doing that, right? And I always tell them, I don't have rules. I just got standards and expectations of me.
Ooh, standards.
It's so when you break that's you're doing that to yourself because you're basically just saying you're not disciplined enough to get yourself up every day for 5 days out of the week to go get stuff done that ultimately I'm paying for you to go to school.
Talk to him, coach. Talk to him, coach.
So it's and I tell them there's gonna be days you're gonna be mad at me. And I tell them there's just days I can't stand being around you either. But at the end of the day, I love what I do. I love what I do. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's that we're dealing with 18 and 22-year-olds. They're going through so much stuff, so much, right? We all went through it too. And so there's going to be days, but as long as the disrespect is not there, you're going to have your moments. We're going to meet there. But, like I said, everybody can't play for me. They just can't, right? And I can't coach everybody.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. It's about finding the right fit for you and finding the right fit for them, and letting that marriage be harmonious. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the key.
Absolutely. But but it all works. It's definitely a blessing. I say that every single day. I talk about having a 2-year-old and then looking at everything that's happened to me thus far, and all I can say is that, I'm blessed. My mom always says, y'all know this, right? Good things happen to good people when you do the right thing.
Right.
Good things don't always happen to you. And I'm a firm believer of that. Firm believer.
Absolutely. Tell us about your transition from, your crossover from being an assistant to a head coach. When that opportunity presented itself, you knew you were ready? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I tell you, it was difficult for me. I spent 12 years under my college coach, and we spent 7 years at Texas Tech in a situation where we had to rebuild, and so we were rebuilding and a program obviously that had national promise, had success under Marshall Sharp for years, right? You knew
Yeah.
what Texas Tech was like. Lady Raider Nation was something different, and we were trying to rebuild that, and that took a lot. And got to the 7th year and then had to make a decision like, hey, am I ready to be a head coach, or do I need to spend some more time? And I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready, but kind of starting to get my feet wet to say, what does that look like to be a head coach? Because everybody wants to be in the seat. They just don't really understand what it means to be in that seat. Like everything falls on you. And so I went and spent 5 years with her at the University of Alabama, same thing, rebuilding, but it was good to be underneath that to see kind of what it looks like to have success. Like Nick Saban, to see how he runs his program was unbelievable. So we got to pick up a lot of gems from there. At that time, in that year 5, what I had to learn is that, have I learned everything that I need to under Christy and Kelly Curry, who both were my college coaches? And it was tough. It was tough because that next following year, we brought in probably one of the best recruiting classes that we've had there. And I had to make a decision, a business decision, to go learn from someone else. My mentors were just telling me, you got to learn from somebody else, because they feel like you know one way to do things.
Right.
And it was tough. And so I ended up making a decision to go to Vanderbilt under Stephanie White. And it was great to add onto my resume, to add an academic institution onto my resume. Seeing Purdue, but then now adding Vanderbilt, which is a different type of recruiting. So it was like, man, now the kids that I thought I can go get at JUCO and go get these places can't get at Vanderbilt. So now you're talking about your recruiting is different. Helped me tremendously to be able to get this job, because now you're looking at a woman of color who has been at all different types of levels and been at different institutions and gets the recruiting piece of it, right? Academically gets that piece. So it works out. Krista Gurley goes back to her alma mater at Texas Tech. This job comes open, and the deputy AD that's here, Russell Warren, he was also with us at Texas Tech, working in a different department. So very familiar with me, has great ties with Christy Curry, and interviewed. I've been doing some interviews. It just wasn't working out. I'm like, man, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And sure enough, and I'm saying that a job opens back up in Texas where, you're well known, works out perfect. And I'm during COVID, I ended up getting a head coaching job and getting an opportunity here at UT Arlington during a COVID year, which I had to go in and have a first year head coach navigate coaching through COVID. Start and stopping, because if someone has COVID, you have to shut down. You're talking about somebody, I could probably write a book of like how challenging that year was, or you talking about you had to think outside the box and be creative and to try to build relationship pieces with, juniors and seniors, which I was blessed with, to have no freshmen, no sophomores. So a very veteran team. Yeah. So as it was a curse, I'm coming in COVID, it was also a blessing that I had a very mature group. And so when you're talking about transitioning, now you're like, okay, how do I make this work? What is the right way to do it? You stumble, but you recover, but you got to be optimistic. And I tell you, I was really, really level-headed, had a really good staff to help me balance that out. And I just was just very transparent through the whole time of just talking through our kids about what the plan is. And I'm going to tell you, it got me through. And and we had a really good year my first year. Like I said, but the transition is different, because Christy Curry used to always say this, it's my name on the door. And I never understood that. And I was like, what's that mean? Like, okay, we know that. Oh, hell, I know what that means now.
Yeah. Your name is on the door.
Right? You're responsible for everyone. Yeah. And knowing that you may feel like you want to sit at your desk and do things, it doesn't work that way. You just have to work smart, and you have to be able to delegate and understand that and trust, like, okay, listen, I'm putting you in this position. And you just tell your staff, now you break that rule or you do, that's on to be on you. And we just discussed that, but you got to communicate with your staff. And that's what I had to learn is that you got to have open dialogue, and it doesn't stop, not with just your players, but also with your staff. And listen, my staff, and they will tell you, I think we're one big family, but what we mean by that family piece, we do a lot of stuff together. Not when, we know when it's time to grind,
Yeah.
but we also know when it's time to relax and go have a glass of wine too. And I think that that's important.
Yeah.
Be able to do that, to balance that, and also have families, because they do have families. And I have a family, and I want to be able to go spend time with my daughter and walk away and knowing that everything is going to be okay.
Man,
Coach, you said a lot. You came in battle tested. You come in during COVID, you like battle tested in terms of being able to pivot, and at the drop of a dime, you have to change whatever you had planned. So I mean,
you know how that works. It's like basketball, right? You get a steal. Hey, listen, you got to flow with it. Like this is going to happen. It's the flow. It's a game of runs, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So listen, it's the same thing. You use a whole bunch of analogies when you're hooping, and it's the same thing in your job. You can always use those different analogies along the way that can help you with it all.
Absolutely. And you got a South Florida tie to us as well, because when you were at Vanderbilt, you actually recruited 2 players out of South Florida. And you brought them to Vanderbilt, Bella LaChance and Coy Love.
Yes.
Talk something about that.
Yeah. So, we talked about this, is the recruiting piece is you got to be creative, right? You got to figure out, what's your region that you're going to recruit. And one of the things I learned when I was at Alabama is that a lot of kids either are going to stay in Alabama, or you're going to get kids that's going to come from the north down to the south. Well, one thing that I was finding out about Vanderbilt was, because I was really researching all sports, where is everybody getting players from? And then at that time, academically, they're looking at where the kids are coming from schools. You look at Florida, right? Florida kids were leaving at that time. A lot of them were not staying and going to Florida. And then also Sue Samurai wasn't really recruiting a lot of those Florida kids. If you look at a roster, right, you didn't see those kids really staying. They were leaving. So I was like, okay, well, let's just try to do some different things here. So went down into Florida, skipped over because they already had Chelsea. Chelsea Hall was already on the roster.
Yeah,
We got her already from there. And so I'm like, okay, let me see if I can do this. Well, before Bella, Coy Love, before that, I recruited Jordan Lewis at Alabama. So Al Honor, obviously, again, with Central Florida Elite, is a great guy. And so I had a great relationship with him. Obviously Coach Diaz with Miami's son, and then obviously Kim down there with Essence. So you have a lot of different kids that you can pocket into. We knew it was high academics. We knew from their high schools that a lot of those kids go to these high academic institutions. So we already knew that. So that was a big piece for me. So the Coy situation worked out just because her mom obviously knew Jordan Lewis. They played at the same high school before she had left and went to Mount Verde and then to Miami-Dade. Yeah. And I just called Coy and I just say, hey, listen, I think it's a great opportunity. You need to go somewhere where you can play immediately. Mm-hmm. And she gave me a hard time at first. And I had called out. I said, Al, I need a suggestion. Like, how do I handle this kid? He said, you just got to be just blunt with her. You got to talk to her like other coaches talk to male basketball players, because that's how she responds. Okay, point blank. So I just called her back and say, listen, I'm not going to kind of mess around with different things. This is your recruiting. You want to be able to come somewhere immediately, get a high academic degree, right? To be able to come to Vanderbilt. You're in a big time city in Nashville. All right. And you're playing for a pro WNBA coach that knows what she's doing. So it's the best of both worlds, whatever you want. Now you can wait, but I'm going to pass someone. I'm just going to spit it to her like that. It was a close deal at that point too then. Because when she came to visit, she knew she was coming. There was a big pickup for us.
Yeah.
And, it was huge. It was huge. But we had to sign 7 kids. And I remember getting that at Vandy. And I don't know if you guys remember that first year, I think we had 9 players on the roster. Yeah. And I was just sitting here knocking myself like, what did I just do? It's 9 players. But all you do is roll up your sleeves, you get stuff done. Now, we ended up signing almost 7 to 8 kids that year. And they were good. It wasn't just her. We had Kaylin, Smith that we signed from there as well, too. And so it was just like trying to find those kids, those hardworking kids that we can blend with who we had at the time, Marielle Fausula, who was one of probably the best post players in the SEC at the time, to blend around that. And so it was huge for us to go in there because we knew academically that we can go get kids to come to Vanderbilt because it was already established with the admissions process there.
That was big on your recruitment journey right there. That spoke volumes for your ability to go out and recruit, big time players.
Yeah, it's a relationship piece of it all, and I just tried to use experiences that I used whenever I was coming out, and it was okay. What's a fit? How can we be creative enough to find those kids that want to buy into this? Because we know, like, right, it's going to be difficult to recruit against the South Carolinas, but everybody can't go to South Carolina. That was always the thing we talked about. But what was our niche? What was it about Vanderbilt? And what we tried to sell and talk about is that, again, we have the first African American female who is an AD in the SEC, and Dr. Lee, who played there and was also in compliance and then became an athletic director there. So you're talking about somebody sitting there talking to you about playing at Vanderbilt, woman of color. And then you had the city, and then you had the degree, and then it was unique and different from everybody else in the SEC. So when we got them on campus, we had to sell that piece of it all. And so it was a great situation for us. It was great for me, like I said before, because it did help me to be able to get into the seat here.
That's deep. Talk to us about the portal, because we hear so many horror stories. We hear that it is flooded with kids. What's your thoughts on the portal?
I'm biased on the portal. I think there's pros and there's cons to the portal. And I think a lot of coaches look at it this way, and I think that there are some coaches that hate it. But for mid-majors like myself, we can go in and steal a kid that has a lot of experience at the Power 5 level to come blend in with these kids who, one, probably has a chip on their shoulders, that felt like they should have been at Power 5, or more so they were smart enough to know that, hey, this is a best fit for me, that I can come in and be able to contribute and play immediately. And so we were fortunate enough, right, because I could use as an example, when I first got here, I ended up signing somebody from the portal, was Deja Benjamin, who I signed from Alabama before I left. I didn't get a chance to coach her because I left. And I knew what she could do. And I knew she had played significant minutes under Christy Curry. She was a big piece for us to be able to add, to get us to this bump, to be able to win like we did this past year. I knew we had a really good nucleus of kids of experience. We were just missing some athleticism, some experience, and some toughness to add to that mix. And we added her. Now, the JUCO piece of it, Star Jacobs, who we added, was also a piece, but she's also could have been considered a portal kid because she went to Houston, to Temple. And those kids made a big difference. So I think it benefits us. Even at the Power 5 level, you lose a kid, you go plug in another kid to get that. Let's say you have a kid that's injured, or a kid that just felt like, hey, I want to go try something else. I want to be competitive. Then go into the portal. There's pros and cons of why kids go into the portal. I think a lot of times what happens is that, you see it on social media, this kid's in the portal, and then all of a sudden it's a bad thing because that coach treated them bad. No, that's not the case. For me, I had 3 kids that went into the portal, and I had open conversations with them. There were seniors who had an extra year to play from COVID. There was nothing else that they could achieve here at UTA. And before the season was over with, we told them they had 3 options. They can go play professionally, help them with that. They can return to UTA because they love UTA and this is where they want to be. And they want to be a part of helping us win another championship in a WAC, in a new conference, or go to the Power 5 level to experience that. Yeah. Those kids had been here for 4 years. They had achieved and graduated from UTA. And so for me, hey, you spread your wings. I'm going to be a big supporter of you. And I had, like I said, 2 go to Oklahoma State and then 1 that just went to Texas Tech. But they had done everything here for us. There was nothing else for them to achieve.
Yeah.
And that's the business part of it all. And I think a lot of times, some coaches won't talk about those things. Some coaches do. But that's part of it. There's no reason to be mad about it, right? Hey, you got to recruit. You got to bring it in. That's the way it is. And on top of it now with NIL stuff, and then potentially kids can now transfer every year if they want to, probably without penalty. Yeah, I mean, it's about to be free for all. So you just got to be prepared and ready to go. It's like, again, like waiting on that special to pop up, right? Ding, right? There's a kid in the portal. it.
Does it affect how you coach, though? Does it affect how you coach your players? Are you concerned about someone saying, I want to go in the portal? Or?
No, I mean, because I have open conversations throughout the year. I try to make sure that I have consistent conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get in a lot of trouble when you don't do that. And I've had some kids going to the portal because I felt like, again, that they weren't bought into the culture piece. And I felt like, hey, there needs to be a change there.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think it's twofold. You don't want to hear that, right? Because you want those kids to have the best experience. But at the same time, like you said, you can't help everybody. You can't control every situation. You just want to find those kids that are going to be 2 feet in. That's what I talk about all the time in my program. You're 2 feet into the process. You're 2 feet into the culture. You're 2 feet in to the standard and what you wear across your chest. So you just can't change that stuff. It's just part of it's here now. And that's what we're living by. And it's tough, right? Because every year you're like, your roster's going to look different, potentially.
Yeah.
Or you're worried about a Power 5 that's going to come get a kid that had success at your program, right?
Mhm.
And they can provide things that I can't provide.
Right.
You know, i.e. we're sitting here saying all these different deals that's coming through on social. It's great. And you got our mids sitting here looking like, well, we can't do that. So you sitting over here having conversations with your kid, you good? I'm here for you, you know, but some kids just don't want that. They're good where they are and they know where their fit is.
Yeah, that's good. That's
It
good
works
stuff.
out. Yes.
Man, you have a totally different perspective, and honestly, this is the first time that I've heard it presented that
Yeah,
way.
I agree.
It makes the most sense. The way you just presented that,
Yeah,
like
she helped me
that's
look at it
the
differently
most.
as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to, right? I mean, I think it's a difference, right? When you've been as a player and then now as an assistant coach and then now as a head coach. It is different. And and I said how do you continue to make yourself relevant every year? Right? How do you still stay by your standards and not compromise ultimately what you're about? And that's every year. It's like even me now, like I'm sitting there, like we're about to start year 3, and it's different because you've won. Scheduling is different because now nobody wants to play you, right? And so, but you do have people that's Power 5, so you want to make sure you balance everything out. But then, you lost a lot of experience, but then now you got a new team and you got new kids coming in. How do you blend that? And I'm like asking my staff, like, well, we didn't do this last year. We got to do it this year. And I always ask myself, did I do enough?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you just got to just kind of roll and just trust the process and say, okay, this is what we got planned, and be mindful that it may change along the way. And so, but it's nerve wracking, but I love it because, I can get up every morning. I'm not teaching a class, right? I get up every morning, either I'm going to a meeting because I'm talking to some administration or I'm talking to fans to buy season tickets. And then I'm dealing with 18 and 22-year-olds that go through everything in life that you can think of, right? And on top of a 2-year-old that may have kept me up all night, right? And then say that I get that 2.5 hours where I'm solely focused on basketball.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
Man.
Yeah. Javon said you got to roll with the punches sometimes.
Yeah, you sure right. I mean, you can't. Like, it is what it is. Like, I can't sit here every day knowing I'm exactly what I'm going to be dealing with every day. I just gotta be prepared, and I say my prayers and knowing and say, hey, it's gonna be a good day. But within that good day, that hey, it's gonna work out no matter what.
Hey, I gotta agree with Mikkel on this one. You dropping so much knowledge, like it's hard to come up with a question to ask you. You dropping it. It's like, man.
Yeah. So what? Let's ask this question before we because we got to get our hot cross zone before we. But Coach, so what do you see in the future? Like, where Coach Wright? I know you. I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat with UT.
I can handle it now, Carla. You ain't got no problem. You put me on the hot seat. I don't have no problem.
I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat with UT Arlington, but Coach, you dropping gems. You primed and ready. Like, what is the goal? What is the goal for Coach Wright and her family?
I guess the goal for me is just to each year be better than I was the year before, right? I said this before. You see what Don has done, what Coach Stringer has done, and you see what Carolyn Peck has done. I want to be up there doing that.
Yeah.
Blank.
I see it for you. No lie.
Blank, right? You want to. I want to be able to do that, but do it my way, right? You see what they've done. Don has found her way to do it. Carolyn found her way to do it, right? Coach Stringer has found her way before she left this. It was her way.
Yeah.
Um, we got all these. I mean, we have a lot. I love the fact that we see the women of color doing great things in their programs, right? And getting these opportunities. We want to get those opportunities, and we want to continue to grow with that and say that we belong at this table and can be at that table, running the table the way we want to run that. And so that's me, but I understand I can't skip steps.
Yeah.
Can't do that, right? And when it's time to be able to do that, then hey, I'm gonna get that opportunity. But at this very moment at UTA, all I know is that in year 3, how can I help this team be the best they can be, mentally, physically, right, emotionally, and when it's all said and done, it's gonna work out the way it's supposed to.
I know that's right.
God's grace and the right timing, like Sonia said. Yep. You got anything else for Coach before we put it in the hot seat?
And listen, Coach dropped a bunch of gems. I have to process all this information. And, I'm a point guard, so I can, I'll be doing.
Oh, you see, you got to know how it flows now. Yeah.
I feel like she hit on so many different things. She was open and elaborative. Like I love that. But one of our guests do have a question for you. Are you recruiting Louisiana?
Of course, I'm recruiting Louisiana. I mean, obviously that was a big piece when I was at Alabama, so I got great ties there, and I currently have an assistant, Kaylin Boyd, who's on my staff that's from Louisiana too. So of course she ain't gonna let me not go to Louisiana, knowing her ties.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I'm not limited to where I recruit. I've built so many different relationships across the country that it works out. I mean, I got kids right now from the New York area all the way down. Here from Texas all the way down. So, obviously the big thing is to recruit home. You recruit your home base and then you build yourself out as it works that way. But yeah, there's no limit. And if there's some hoopers that you want me to go see, you let me know right now.
Of course, no.
Coach, I do got one question for you, because a lot of kids, definitely in this day and age with the travel ball circuit, it's either you're with a shoe company or you're not. Right. And these kids are sometimes conflicted because they think they have to affiliate themselves with a shoe sponsored team. Right. And they might not necessarily be the right fit for that. So circuit or no circuit?
Again, I'm biased. I probably, if I was at Power 5 still, I would have probably said circuit, right? Because you're playing against the best of the best. Well, I come to find out when I got to this seat, that really wasn't the case. I feel like you find a lot of players that are just as talented. They just don't play on the circuit because either nobody knows about them, right? Or they just don't want to be involved in it all. And there are some really good, programs. I'm not going to sit here and say that because I think it's great for girls or the grassroots for that. It's great because it's preparing them to know I played against this player who was ranked number 1. Does rankings really matter? It's about a fit. Yeah. It's about a fit. So it don't really matter to me because, like I said, I could be walking to a court and nobody's sitting on that court and I can find somebody I'm looking for. And I'm like, okay, I don't want nobody to see this kid. I want to get her, and stuff because we all know, this too, especially when it talks about bigs, right? Everybody in the country is looking for a big. Yeah. That big, got great hands, can run the floor, can do all this stuff. You're not getting them. She's not going to get them. Yeah. Point blank. So, I love the challenges of it all. But, even for my recruiting right now, I'm only going 2 years in because things are going to change so much now. But I also know it's about relationships. And you want to build those relationships too, especially if a kid decides it's, she tells you no. She goes back in that portal like, hey, let's get back here. You didn't come to me the first time, but come on back here the second time. I'll welcome you with open arms. So it does work. So, Takara, to be, to answer your question, I don't really think it really matters. It is about, again, what you're looking for and what's that fit.
Yeah. Thank you, because a lot of kids struggle with that. They're putting themselves in situations that's not advantageous to them because they think that, they won't get found. And I'm glad that you said that and opened that up so that they understand that.
Of course. Absolutely.
Definitely find those diamonds in the rough, like they say, that, ballers, they're just not out there and maybe not have access to it, maybe don't have the money for it or whatever. They just not out on that circuit, but they can definitely help your program. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got all these tournaments we go to, and it's always, I mean, that's the good thing about social media right now, right? It's you're like, this kid is. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I mean, perfect example. You're talking about Flage, Johnson that just went to LSU, right? I mean, she just kind of popped up out of nowhere. I remember this kid watching her on, again with Jermaine Dupri on that show she was on, right? And I'm like, you see her highlights. I said, man, this kid is athletic. She can do some stuff. And all of a sudden, people are gonna go watch her, right? And hear all these Power Fives watching her. Look what she's done for herself, right? Yeah. And especially with this NIL piece of it. I was watching on Good Morning America. She was on there. We recruited her some at Vanderbilt. And I said, this kid is like taking off at another level, but she's just so humble, so humble. Yep. And I think that's always the fun part, to be able to watch and see these kids take off and doing the stuff that they're doing.
I love it. Well, Coach, before we get into our hot cross zone, I want to say that picture behind you, I have the identical picture in my living room. So that's a powerful picture.
Yes,
definitely a
gotta
blessing.
have it. Gotta have it in the home.
Gotta have it with you. Yes. It speaks of volumes and just mercy over your home. So I love it. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Affirmation, confirmation. So look, we got the hot cross zone. We ask you 5 questions, get to know you a little bit, put you in a little hot seat a little bit.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So what's your favorite food, Coach?
Oh, that's hard. Probably pizza.
I was gonna actually, I was waiting for her to say something, right? And I was gonna say, well, you a cook. But she said,
no. We straight ordering that.
And that's bad, right? Because I got a 2-year-old piece, and I got to learn to start cooking at the house. So
you said mom's around, so I'm sure mom will up inside too.
Yeah,
you're busy. I got you, Coach. No problem. All right, Coach. Oh, somebody's asking about your social. We'll get those social media tags before she leaves. Definitely. All right, Coach. So dessert or no dessert?
Oh, dessert, hands down.
Hands down, gotta have.
She's not cooking, but she want dessert.
Yeah.
And that's a bad thing. When you stop hooping, right? You're done every day to work out. I said, man, now you listen, that ice cream that you ate the night before is sitting on you. Gonna see that now.
Yeah,
like, man.
It hit different, Coach. It hit different now. We didn't see it back then, but now
I was so skinny back then. Now I see everything now.
All right, so Coach, you in the game. You want to play a fast game or a slow game?
Oh, absolutely fast paced. Nobody want to watch nothing slow.
You put pressure on them, Coach. You picking them up, huh?
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. You putting your team together. You got your point guard. You got your big. Which one you picking first, the big or the point guard?
Definitely the point guard.
Look at T. She like that. All right. So you got to put that's you on the floor, right? She represents you.
She represents me, and you got to be able to, have. Again, how competitive I am, you got to be able to run your team and be able to know that your team trusts you. It's about being that leader, right?
Yeah.
And so that point guard, it's got to start with them for sure.
All right. So last question. 3 things, give us 3 things a high school player can do to increase their chances of receiving an offer. What are some 3 things, if you can minimize it, that listen, do this and that can increase your chances to get recruited?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the first one is talk. I want at least to hear that you can talk on the floor, right? And I can hear you. Defend. We can't find a lot of kids that really want to defend. And I think more so than anything is that, again, it's going to be encouraging their teammates and receptive to coaching. I'm paying attention to all those things. They walk off the floor and it's a coach talking to them.
Body language.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Now, obviously, being able to score, right, matters. Right? You need to be able to have that piece and do everything. But I need to be able to see those things. You just can't be a mute for me. Just can't.
Right. Yeah, we're throwing out the things we understand being able to score those things, but these are some innate, some little things that we don't think about. We don't put a lot of stock into, but I really agree with you that they are big and they make you stand out from other people, because we go on the circuit and we see all these scores out here. Everybody can score, but how many of them are talking, and how many of them take defense seriously, and how many of them really encourage their teammates that sets them apart. So I agree with you.
Yeah, they don't really do that stuff. But you just like, and if I could throw more in, it's just playing with some emotion, right? You love what you're doing. I think that that's the piece. Like, you get me to smile because I'm like, dang, you an ultra competitor. But
Yeah.
my thing is that I don't see that. I'm like, how can I coach that?
Yeah. No passion.
No, yeah, that's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Big,
Like that, coach.
big.
I like that, coach. So tell us, they asking for your social media tags about UTA. Like, give them out, like, so they can follow the team. They can follow y'all progress. We can get some
Yes.
that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, I had to go back and pull it up. I got so many handles
Yeah.
on that whole piece of it
Trust me.
all.
If
But the
somebody
first
asked me
and
that, I'll be
foremost,
doing the same thing.
yes, I had to go back. Well, first you got to follow the page is UTA Women's Basketball on Twitter. I think that's a big piece. I'll tell you, that's one of the things that is important for me, and my team knows that. That's how you get your word out. That's how you get your story out. So UTA Women's Basketball. Mine's just Coach Reek, Reke UTA. I don't like being called Coach Wright, Coach Shriek. I don't like that. This is Coach Reek. This is how I vibe. And so, yeah, come follow me on Twitter. I love new followers. We want that. We want to continue to build this brand out. We love where we headed, and we need that fan support for sure.
All right.
There it is.
All right. Coach, we appreciate you so much. Go ahead, T.
Yeah, the last thing I got for you, the very last one, I want you to leave them with, what does legacy mean to you?
Good question. Legacy to me means just leaving your stamp. And nobody can take that stamp from you. No one can take it from you. So, again, at the end of the day, when people talk about Shereka Wright and the legacy that she's left, they know that she smiled every day, that she respected everybody, that she worked her ass off, excuse my language.
Oh, we do that here.
Go ahead, Coach.
And at the end of the day, right, we develop young women, and that's ultimately what it's really about. So that's my legacy piece of it. And so when people see me, I want them to know that this is what they're going to get every single day.
Man,
love it.
Love it. I'm so thankful for you coming on the show with us and definitely pouring your gems. But I'm super duper excited about the future and what you're gonna bring to the table, because right now I can foresee what's about to happen in your life and with everything that's going on. Like, yeah, it's special. And
I appreciate
glad
it.
to be watching the journey for sure.
I appreciate it. Anytime you guys need anything, I'm here to help and to build your brand out. This is awesome to be able to do this. And so anytime I can get on and talk about just, again, our vision in UTA Women's Basketball, I'm going to do that. So I appreciate you.
All right, so we definitely appreciate you being here, dropping those gems, man. Shout out to UTA. You guys have a great season. Go out there and kill it out there.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You all have a good night.
Coach.
I see you.
Bye, ladies. Y'all have a good one.
Have a good one. Oh man, listen, gems. On top of gems, on top of gems, on top of gems. You can literally feel the passion. And you can see, like, her passion. You can see it just pouring from her. Hell, if I could play, I'd play for her.
Right. Like, sign me now, Coach. Sign me now. Yeah, definitely. She's doing a great job over there at UTA, and I'm glad she got her opportunity to sit in that seat, and to be able to show her skills and to be able to be a blessing to young ladies. And like she said, I love how she said, like, develop women, like develop them, not just basketball players rather, but women, because we know the game is going to end. The ball is going to stop bouncing. So preparing them for that. And I like that. That's great.
Yeah. And before we go, it's something that we didn't touch on earlier, but I do want to touch on it right now. Number one, we talked about it last week. Miami Dolphins, the owner got suspended for a couple games, for like 6 games. He tampering. So that means what Brian Flores said has some validity to it. And Brian Flores did come back out and say that it wasn't to the extent or magnitude that he thought it should have been. But I want to talk about this. Colin Kaepernick, Cleveland Browns. Is it?
I keep looking at, researching and reading. He may get a look, from the Browns. You know, they got Deshaun Watson over there who's got some personal issues going on.
He just got suspended. I think the commissioner just made it an announcement that he's going to be suspended for the whole year, I think.
Wow. So wait, does that mean no preseason either?
Yeah, I think he's been suspended for the entire year. I'm gonna have to read up on that, but I was reading something like that.
I said it nice, Mikhail. Look, Mikhail, you know, I'm trying to be politically correct. You know, you got some criminal issues. I don't know how you want me to say it. I was trying to be nice, man. Come on, Cole. Come on. So.
Hey, but before we get out of here, too, the GOAT, Serena Williams, announced that she's retiring. What does this mean? She's been a trailblazer in the game of tennis, her and her sister, but Serena has set the tone. And, you know, what's next? Because she's accomplished everything that she possibly can accomplish in her profession. So what's next? You know, that salute to the GOAT on an illustrious career, kicking down the door for women of color that look like you and me, doing it from the city of Compton, making it to the big ranks. And again, like Coach just said, legacy, can't deny that. She has stamped the game of tennis, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Hey, she about to cross over.
She might as well join the show. Hey, so check us out. Anybody that knows.
Come on, anybody. Hey, let me tag Serena Williams in that. Come on, crossover. Let us sit down and talk with you, Queen. You know, so she crossing over, and it is to be expected. It's going to happen for all of us if we're blessed enough to live long enough. You know, you're going to cross over to something new, and so I wish her nothing but the best. And I know she's going to slam that like she did all the balls on the tennis court. You know, so she's going to be magnificent in whatever she does, even if it's to raise her daughter. You know, to be a great mother, a great wife. You know, she deserves this time to do that, to, you know, get into her family. She's been giving so much to the game of tennis and entertaining everyone. So, hey, kudos to Serena, man. Shout out to the Williams family. You know, they've been great for our community, you know, representing our Black community. So definitely wish her the best.
Absolutely. And with that being said, good people, you already know we love when y'all tune in, love when y'all support, love when y'all engage with us, because that's what it's all about. We love hearing from y'all because y'all come from a different perspective on some things than we have too. So definitely appreciate your support. Don't forget to share it. Follow us on Facebook, The Crossover. Follow us on YouTube, The Crossover. Just keep us going, because we're going to try to bring all the guests in to drop knowledge, drop gems, and hopefully give you guys what you're looking for.
Hey, you said it. Y'all heard what she said? All that she said. That's what I said. All that. All that. Appreciate it. Hey, listen here. Use the game. Don't let the game use you. Until next time, we appreciate y'all. The Crossover. Talk to you later.
Live from Detroit, I'm gonna holler at y'all.